It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio, whether you're watching or listening. We're going to sit down with Sedona Heritage Museum's historian, Janine Trevelyan, today to talk about the museum and how things have been going over the past year. Their website is sedonamuseum.org. Phone number is 282-7038. Janine, welcome back into studio. It's always great to see you.
Very good. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Now, you've had, over the last few months, you've sent me 4 or 5 different press releases. So I thought we'd combine them all today and get through all of it, if we can, today. First thing for you, though, is it's been about a year, I think, since I've talked to you. How have things been going with the museum during the pandemic? Well,
it was a rough first 3 months after closure last March. But after 3 months, we were able to reopen. We've been able to stay open that full-time, regular hours. Bless our volunteers who volunteer at the museum and meet people and greet them and give them the tours. We've done very well. We have a lot of training protocols, cleaning protocols, masks are required. We've put up staging and queue areas to keep people separated with some stage entry times. And so far, everything has gone very well, and our volunteers have said they feel very safe here. So we're happy about that. So we're back in business and a little short on visitorship, so we encourage people to come by. So get those numbers back up.
Yeah, visitorship. So how down is it? Can you give me any specific numbers just to give us kind of an idea?
Yeah, in 2020, theoretically, we should have been 25% down because we were down 25% of the year. We were closed. But actually, the numbers were more like 45% down, which is pretty significant. This year, we're having a very slow start. We're probably in a similar neighborhood, maybe not quite that bad. Of course, you expect January to be slow, but it really hasn't ramped up in February like we'd hope it would. So we'll see what March and April are like.
I think that kind of resonates all around the world, too, with just about anybody who's got a business open or anything open to have the public come in. They've seen a huge drop on things. Yep. Okay, so you've covered the COVID requirements. When someone visits, you are requiring masks when you come into the museum and then to keep it on while you're in the museum. Okay.
Absolutely, and from day one, it's been that way. Our volunteers, if nothing else, our volunteers are worthy of protection, and we're going to do everything we can to take care of them.
Sure thing, sure thing. All right, let's, shortly after this happened, the pandemic started last year in 2020, you had put out a press release, and it's not one sitting in front of me, but you were looking for images of the last pandemic that we had encountered, 1918. So I was kind of curious, how did that go, that hunt for those pictures?
Well, we were only able to turn up one in our area, which was kind of a fun one. It does indeed show the whole family in 1918 with masks, either wearing them or hanging off their ear like we're all wearing an extra earring these days. So that was pretty great. Not a lot of others. But, in 1918 in Arizona, cameras were probably a little more few and far between. And, of course, we didn't have a newspaper here.
Okay. Well, there's that, too. So you didn't have somebody going out and taking pictures for the local paper.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we should put the plea out there again, though. If anybody knows anybody who had family in the area, or would you be, I think I'd be happy with just state of Arizona photos at the moment, since you've got one just of Sedona, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And any family stories. I mean, they may not have photos, but maybe they had a relative who passed away or was ill and hospitalized in 1918-19 when that first flu pandemic or the last flu pandemic went through. And so maybe they have a picture of their relative in a story about that person, whether they survived or not. We do have the second oldest cemetery in Sedona, the Cook Cemetery over by the Elks Club here in town. The very first burial there was in 1918 from a victim of the Spanish flu pandemic then. So we have learned a little more about that person. We really basically only knew their name and that part of the story. We have taken time over this past year to do a little more family research and find more out about that person and why he was here and things like that.
Well, now if I were to call you and I had an interesting story about Sedona, what do you do? Do you jot that down, take it word for word yeah? How does that work?
Yeah, if somebody wants to just call and say, I want to talk to Janine and tell her a story, I'll sit and type it up. We're able to borrow original photographs if somebody's in state, return them to them. But if they're from out of state, if they can get it scanned at high resolution and email us files and things like that, it's so much easier now to capture information. And then we type it up and put it in our files and records.
And you're looking for unique events throughout the time, of course.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the harmonic convergence in 1987. It'd be great if somebody had family photographs or stories of having come here in 1987 to be part of the harmonic convergence. All of those kinds of stories are interesting, and people 50 years from now are going to find even that much more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Janine and I were talking before the show started. I was 18 working in uptown Sedona at a restaurant during the harmonic convergence, and I was telling people it's just a rock. It's not going to open up, trust me. But yeah, I remember that very well. I do remember that. All right, let's move on to the next thing. And pictures of pandemic. If you got any from 1918, get them to Janine. They would love to have them. So recently the museum was recertified by the Arizona Historical Society. What does that mean to the museum?
The number one thing it means to us is that, I guess it's kind of confirmation that we're doing best practices, a way small museums should be. We have a lot of things in place in terms of governance, in terms of financial oversight, and all those kinds of things to make sure that we are a credible public trust organization. It also very critically means to us that we qualify for a grant through the state. So you have to meet a certain threshold in order to qualify for certain funding. And we do depend on getting a grant from that agency, the Arizona Historical Society, every year or two when we apply to do. And their grants are specifically for doing collections work and exhibits work. And so those are really critical grants for us. Those are grants that are much harder to find locally.
Is there a lot of competition throughout the state for those grants, or do we have a limited amount of museums that would be applying for that, or do other businesses other than museums are able to apply for those grants too?
Those are only museums that can apply for the Arizona Historical Society grant. It is competitive though, so you have to make your plea. It has to sound like something that they want to do, falls within their criteria. And it has to sound like you're organized enough, have a strong enough support system and foundation that you could actually pull off a grant.
How long has the Sedona Heritage Museum been there in uptown Sedona?
We are coming up on our 23rd year. We're coming up on our 23rd year. And actually next year, 2022, will be the 40th anniversary of the Sedona Historical Society. So knock on wood, we'll be having some parties next year.
So the grant writers, do they look at the museum, how long it's been there, or the fact that Sedona's had a historical society for the 40 years? What weighs more?
Probably one or the other. The long-term consistency of the society, which is the holding organization, if you will, is probably a factor. But having been open for almost 3 years now, and showing the numbers that we support and the number of requests we field every year. We field something like 500 requests for research help per year. And even during the pandemic, that didn't stop. The phone still rang. People still wanted to know if we had pictures of this or information about that, or dates for relatives and things like that. So you get everything from the phone call that's an easy answer to having to spend a week to do research and go through books and binders and files folders to try and find information for people.
Oh, and I bet you guys love that, don't you?
Well, it does turn over some rocks sometimes.
Right? I'm sure it does, right?
It does. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I should have figured out that didn't make sense. I have to go figure that out. I have to research it, put it together, and see if I can't make more sense out of this, because now that you mention it, if I were to just read the top sentence, it would sound fine, but once you go to the next level, it doesn't all make sense.
Awesome. All right, let's take our first break. Sedona Heritage Museum historian Janine Trevelyan in studio with us today. SedonaMuseum.org. SedonaMuseum.org is the website. Phone number is 282-7038. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Who doesn't dream of home improvements? Perhaps your kitchen, the real living room. Maybe the bathroom, where you bookend your day. Langstrand Contracting is your one-stop shop from tear down to finishing touches. With 35 years of experience, Chris and his team will work with you to match your family's style and budget. Call Langstrand Contracting today for guidance in bringing your vision to life.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family-friendly, open 11:30 to 9, late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle, get Gettles.
Welcome back to Countywide. Janine Trevelyan, historian for the Sedona Heritage Museum, is in studio with us today. SedonaMuseum.org is the website. Phone number is 282-7038, 282-7038. During the break, Janine was telling me that they've got a cemetery walk coming up April 30th and May 1st. Tickets go on sale March 15th. Tell me a little bit more about the cemetery walk, Janine.
So we're looking for activities that are outdoors where people can be COVID safe and we can limit attendance. So that's what we're doing. There will be limited tickets available for this. Tickets will go on sale March 15th. We designed this program last fall for our historic cemetery inside the city limits of Sedona, but we own a second cemetery, the oldest cemetery, which dates from 1893 out on the Red Rock Loop Road. So we're going to move the concept of Voices from the Grave out to that cemetery. And on those 2 days, we'll have 2 shows per day where people will walk around in a controlled manner so there's never too many people in one little spot. And we will be having professional actors who will reenact certain characters. The characters out at the Red Rock Cemetery will start with Jim Thompson, who is considered our first Anglo settler. He arrived in Oak Creek Canyon in 1876. So we're going back that far to meet one of our very first pioneer. Then we've got some other family members, homesteaders, hired hands who work for some of the other pioneer families, and the mother of the little girl who was 4 years old who, when she died in 1893, started this whole cemetery. So the mother will be there to talk about her children and her family and everything. And the other fun thing about that cemetery, or interesting thing, is we had several Hispanic families who are considered first families here, came in the 1880s and 1890s. And there's a whole little plot of Hispanic family members who are buried at that cemetery. So we'll be having someone represent those families and telling the stories of those folks too.
Is this museum just out in the open, or the cemetery, I'm sorry, is it just, it's right on Red Rock Loop Road? I'm trying to picture it and I can't quite see it in my head.
It sits up just a little bit of the road and it doesn't have a big gate or fence or entry, and so a lot of people blow past it and never know it's there.
I don't know it's there.
It's a common thing. Yeah. We'll have a big sign out, I promise. The day of the cemetery walk, we'll have a big sign.
Okay, it's always interesting to go through the old cemeteries. Even the one down in Cottonwood, I've gone through that one, and you see some of the old sandstone headstones where the many years of wind and rain have almost washed the numbers and letters and everything else away from the stone, but there it still sits, and you can see it. I always find that kind of interesting to go look at those things. Okay, so that's coming up. Cemetery Walk, April 30th and May 1st. Tickets go on sale March 15th, so that's coming up pretty quick. They give you the phone number again for Sedona Museum. It's 282-7038. Something else, Janine, that you just sent me recently was that you guys are putting the local newspaper, the local Red Rock News newspaper, on the museum's website?
Yep.
We can go look at it? Okay, tell me about that.
Okay, so Sedona didn't get a newspaper till October of 1963. So to find records prior to that period of time, you've got to go lots of other places to try and find anything. So, but in 1963, here we have the newspaper way before any kind of digital records. And the Library of Congress has a very aggressive newspaper scanning project in place that they've been doing for a number of years, where they're trying to get old newspapers digitized up on websites so that people can do word searches and things like that. But guess what? They decided they only have funding to go until June 1963. And we didn't get a newspaper until October. So it's going to be decades before we could expect our local newspaper to be up and digital for people to access. So the only way you can read a Red Rock News now from those early days is to go sit at the Sedona Public Library, pull out a microfiche roll, and scroll through page by page and read every word until you find the reference you're looking for. It's pretty painful. So since we, as historians and researchers here at the museum, had been having that experience for several years, we started looking around for what are our options. That's when we learned about the Library of Congress program, and we learned that we did not qualify. So we started looking for grant opportunities, and we started getting grants about 2 years ago. We've had 2 different grants so far, and we've been able to take the first 800 issues up till like June of 1987, I believe. So I think we're probably a month short of Harmonic Convergence newspaper coverage. But that's how far the funding went for this particular go-round. So it was a huge process. First, you have to get, copyright clearance from the Red Rock News, the Larson family, and they were very good about that. They wanted to see this happen too. Then we had to reach out and get bids from only certain kinds of companies who meet Library of Congress standards in terms of what kind of file types and things like that, so that it is actually word searchable when you get done with all the work. Then you send the microfiche off, which you have to work with some vault under a mountain in eastern United States where they keep these rolls of microfiche, the original masters, and you have to get them released and sent off to these firms where the digitization occurs. And then we sent it to the state library, because the cost and the kind of technology you have to hold the number of files and the size of files for this, and then the kind of software that reads it, is a complicated system, and it costs a lot, and it's a huge burden to support that storage, and we just couldn't do that as a small organization. So we wanted to partner with the state. They were thrilled. It took them several months, which of course they had some downtime in the middle of with the COVID thing last year. Then they had to restart and get all of our files loaded. There's a whole background of adding metadata to these records and images when they come back in. They managed all of that process. So it's a multi-step. We learned a lot, but it was pretty exciting when they called us in January and said, it's up for testing. And the very first thing I did was I was like, okay, how can I test this? And I just want a word search. If it's not word search, I'm really going to be disappointed. So I went on to the website and I typed in Stay Away Joe, which is the name of the Elvis Presley movie that was made in Sedona. And just like that, I got, and I did this on the internet, not on their website. Let me take that back. I didn't go to their website. I went to the internet just to Google and put in Stay Away Joe. And the first 2 hits I got on the internet were these newspapers at the state library. It took us straight to the Red Rock News and some of the news coverage that they did when Elvis was in town.
Awesome. We got to take our second break. That is really cool. When we come back, we'll tell you how you can participate in some of this if you need to. Sedona Heritage Museum historian Janine Trevelyan is with us today. SedonaMuseum.org is the website. Number is 282-7038. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at C&B Homes.com.
Been hearing about the crazy benefits of CBD? Find out how CBD can help you at Sedona's #1 resource, CBD Sedona. Come in for a free consultation and let our trained medical staff help you find the perfect product for you. Pain-relieving salves, full-spectrum oils, CBD skincare, bath bombs, and even CBD for your pets. Come on by CBD Sedona today.
Terrifying jobs, high-flying linemen, take 3.
Josh, this is an absolutely terrifying job. Why do you do it?
It's a very demanding job, but very rewarding and exciting.
How much energy are you actually working with up there?
500,000 volts of electricity.
It's definitely not my line of work. Does anything shock you?
Yeah, distracted drivers terrify me.
The Heritage Museum historian Janine Trevelyan is with us. SedonaMuseum.org is the website. Phone number is 282-7038. Don't forget, a cemetery walk is coming up on April 30th and May 1st. Weather ought to be perfect for something like that. And tickets go on sale March 15th, so just contact the Sedona Heritage Museum, the Sedona Museum, for more information on that. Okay, Janine, we've got just a couple minutes left in the program. Can folks go ahead and enjoy these old newspaper prints and go in and read them without having to go to the library now? What do we do to access that information?
If you come to our website, SedonaMuseum.org, and choose the tab that says History and Research, it'll take you right to a landing page with links that will take you directly to these files online that are hosted at the state. You don't have to worry about finding a state website or anything. Just go right to SedonaMuseum.org, research.
Oh, man, you've just given some people who are stuck at home, like we all have been for the pandemic, something to do. That would be really fun to go back and look at those old newspapers. Something else I wanted to hit, we've got about 2 minutes left, so we've got a little bit of time, Janine. The Living History by the Sedona Heritage Museum, the simple, surprising, humble button.
We've had to go virtual with our Living History programs this year, so we have reached out to some people who are collectors and reached out to some people who are local historians. And the first couple of living histories that have gone virtual, which we're providing by broadcast on our YouTube channel, have been collectors. And this most recent collection that is buttons from 1860s, I believe, to the 1940s, a local woman who collects buttons. So she's got that whole history and what buttons meant for the class systems, for the change in the way garments were used and worn. And the different materials that buttons were made out of and what they said about the individuals, where the buttons came from, and things like that, is all part of the button talk. So if people are interested in history in general and trivia especially, this will be a fun one.
It's funny, you don't think about the button, do you? But yeah, it's been around for a very long time, and it's had many, many purposes, for sure.
And it was considered high technology at the time that it was invented.
That's great.
You know, everything had been ties and drawstrings and things like that up to then, or just plain draping. So buttons were big technology influence.
I just love having you come in and talk about this stuff. You know that, right?
Well,
I
good.
do. I do. You always just put a smile on my face with some of the things that you bring up whenever you're here. So we're out of time, but Janine, thank you so much. Sedona Heritage Museum's historian Janine Trevelyan. Again, the website is sedonamuseum.org. Phone number is 282-7038. Don't forget, Cemetery Walk's coming up April 30th and May 1st. Tickets go on sale March 15th. That's today's Countywide. As always, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.